All right. I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 804, Black Economics. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit the notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. Also, there'll be a docket in the description, the video for you to follow along with and reference. There'll be a Zoom link as well. If you want to join the panel and engage in the discussion, make sure you update your Zoom client before joining. Let me grab the Zoom link and then we can get started. Push one in the chat if you can see the screen. All right, cool. Let's get started. So for tonight's topic, I want to talk about access to capital. Okay. Who has access and who doesn't? This is from Boston Business Journal. Thought this was a really interesting article, so I think we should actually cover it. It's pretty lengthy. Give me about 5 or 10 minutes. We can get through this and then we can chop it up, and if not, man, we'll peel up out of here. All right. Capital concerns. Access to capital is at near crisis levels for Black business owners. Let me zoom in here. All right. Salamata Bangura is a hustler. During a typical week in the summer season, she attends upwards of 20 farmers markets per week to sell her products. This time last year, the founder of Yamaku, a West African food business specializing in ginger drinks, was recovering from the pandemic slowdown. Her business was doing well. She was scaling up her revenue and looking to open a brick and mortar location. She was also attending workshops for women in business. In short, she was doing everything she needed to grow her business and even locked down a Roxbury location for her business last year and was preparing to open. But just as suddenly as that success came, everything came to a screeching halt. The problem, in short, she can't get any funding, she said. Quote, I have laid off all my employees. I've stopped all my operations. I'm not doing any farmers markets, Bangura said. Accessing capital for small Black-owned businesses is not a new problem. These owners have long struggled to get loans and investment, and the pandemic only exacerbated that problem. But now business owners who took on debt during COVID are facing economic downturn that's hitting them hard. Quote, we basically took a situation that was bad to begin with and made it even worse, Bangura said. Here's a chart, funding and race. Let's look at this. A look at access to capital broken down by racial background. From left to right, percentage of mass businesses who report receiving no COVID relief funding. Okay. From left to right, white, Black, Latino, Asian. Whites reported at 13%, Blacks reported at 33%, 19% for Latinos, and 8% for Asians. Okay. Percentage of mass business owners who say that accessing capital is a major concern. From left to right, whites say 55% is a major concern. Blacks say 85% is a major concern. Latinos say 88% is a major concern. And Asians say 77%. Okay. The percentage of mass businesses who got rejected for loans. 26% were white, 41% were Black, 39% were Latino, and 25% were Asian. Okay. Across the country, all small business owners are struggling with increased interest rates, slow foot traffic, and high supply costs, and a slowdown in business and small business loans. But Black business owners are feeling this burden twofold as they face a tougher recovery after the pandemic, with Paycheck Protection Program loans having run out and the uncertainty of the economy. Black business owners are put in a position where they are once again at the bottom of the totem pole. 2/3 of Black business owners consider access to capital a major concern, more than double the rate of white business owners. A recent Mass Inc. survey showed. Although COVID funding helped many small businesses survive during the height of the pandemic, many Black businesses or business owners miss out. While 80% of businesses say they received some form of COVID relief, a third of Black business owners said they received no COVID funding. Black-owned businesses have amassed debt in the past couple of years, and with an economic downturn, it is incredibly difficult for these folks to get the capital they need to launch and grow their businesses, said Nicole Obie, president and CEO of Black Economic Council of Massachusetts. That issue has just gotten more difficult with the state of the economy, said Obie. While Bangura has struggled to access capital since she started her business in 2017, she says she's never seen a slowdown like this before. Banks are more skeptical of her balance sheets, and she feels as though her knowledge is underestimated. Quote, this banker said to me, point blank, you should talk to this person, help you because they went to Babson College. And I was just sitting there looking at him with an MBA from Babson in my pocket, she said. It's difficult for all small businesses to receive loans right now, and it's even harder for Black business owners, Obie said. One reason for that is because banks use credit scores to determine who they are going to lend to and at what cost, she said. Quote, that is a measure that puts disadvantages and discriminations that Black business owners face into a number, Obie said. There needs to be a restructuring of how financial institutions deem businesses successful, Obie said. Quote, the responsibility is on them, not business owners, to close the racial wealth gap, she said. The cyclical pattern that Black businesses face can only be broken by a new solution, she said. We need a solution that is more creative, thoughtful, and inclusive. That is going to disrupt the system in place. Failure versus resilience. Due to these barriers, it's harder for Black business ownership to grow. In 2020, Black people represented 14.2% of all Americans, but only 2.4% of all employer-firmed employer firm owners. If Black business ownership continues to grow at its current rate, which is 4.72%, it will take 256 years to reach parity with the share of Black people in America, according to a study by the Brookings Institution. Many Black business owners turn to community lenders to access capital, as they tend to focus more on underserved entrepreneurs, said Betty Francisco, CEO of Boston Impact Initiative, a nonprofit that seeks to build financial, social, and political power for entrepreneurs of color. But these community lenders are also seeing barriers to disseminating money to businesses. Quote, "We are seeing a slowdown in fundraising for our new fund. So it slows out deployment to small business owners. There's a mindset that we should be conserving cash, but that's contrary to what businesses need right now," Francisco said. Some local banks, such as Eastern Bank and Berkshire Bank, have programs in place to fund minority-owned small businesses. But when Black business owners fail to show they have good credit or a long-term success rate, their failure marks them, Bangura said. Meanwhile, for other business owners, failure is a badge of honor, Bangura said. Quote, "You can see men who fail over and over and they are seen as resilient. That's not the same for me. Failure is celebrated only if you look a certain way and if you have access to certain people," she said. The lack of capital becomes even a bigger issue when Black business owners land a major contract and have to scale up operations to fulfill what any entrepreneur would consider a good opportunity. Karen Clark, founder of Clark's Cakes and Cookies, got a $28,000 contract to provide 150 full sheet pans of cake for MIT's graduation in May. When Clark heard the order, instead of excitement, she felt fear. Quote, "How can I afford to make 150 pans of cake?" She asked herself. She got the gig through a partnership with Commonwealth Kitchen, a food incubator in Dorchester, and gourmet caterers. Commonwealth Kitchen expressed these concerns on Clark's behalf, and gourmet caterers provided Clark with half of the money from the contract up front to finance the baking. "If I didn't get that money, I wouldn't have been able to take that job," Clark said. So these are some of the issues that Black people are running into. So when you want to hear people come on here and talk about, these bootstrap politics, if Black people just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, not exactly. Doesn't really work that way.
That's not how it works, man.
What's going on, MOC?
Oh, what's going on, man? I just left an area for farming, and it's pretty much an area where there was no small farmers, and they were talking about how these farmers credit union was giving out $500,000-$600,000 to farms in the area. I'm like, all these are corporate farms, man.
Mm-hmm.
They don't offer this type of money to farmers. I'm talking about white farmers that don't offer that type of money to. But, and especially not even Black farmers. So it's things are, it's so bad when it comes to funding. You pretty much have to do everything yourself. Then after you get it done yourself, you want to run a professional operation, here come all these bootstrap dudes who want to experiment with something that you already built. It's nah, bro, we're not going to run it like that. And that's what you run into, because everybody don't want to put in the work. And once the work get put in, everybody expects a spot on the team. And it's you can't really expect that. The lady who got that contract, yes, of course she doesn't have the capacity to bake probably about 6 or 8 cakes at a time. What is she supposed to work 90-some days, 5-6 hours a day to do that? No. And imagine the power bill to be able to bake that much stuff in that short a period of time, right? And it's you don't get any help. Like trucking, you get issued a Visa card from the government up front for whatever you're doing. You don't start off like that, man. You don't start off like that. You have to go pay for your own equipment and everything else. You got to pretty much do all that stuff yourself. And then people talk about you taking chances and putting people on. I'm like, bro, listen, man, you got to work with professionals too.
Yeah.
Because that actual money doesn't mean anything if you replace employees every 5 minutes. That's also expensive. But we're talking about guaranteed gigs here that people can't get the money. So.
No, and that's the thing, right? Because your business can't scale if you don't have the capital to do so. Business only scale when there's capital available. That's what a startup is, right? A startup is a business that's going to scale up at some point. It's not going to stay in the same position that it started off in. And I think that a lot of the people in this space don't really understand the significance of all of this. They think that, if you just go down to Home Depot. I mean, I remember we had a panel one time, and this brother jumped on the panel and he said, we could rebuild the Black community. Let's start by going to Home Depot and getting some stuff. Like this is the sort of mindset that some of these guys have, but they don't understand all the nuances that go into actually starting the business. If she didn't get that 28,000, she wouldn't have been able to do it. And that's not an 8-hour, shift for her. That's 12, 16 hours of baking, at best.
Weeks, at least 2 weeks, 24 hours a day. 12-hour shifts, probably going to sleep, get the cake out, then you gotta have somebody frost all these cakes and all that kind of stuff. She probably had to go find another subcontractor within the area. She probably didn't make much money for profit out of it.
Yeah.
But these are the situations that you run into. But you can go to Walmart. Walmart can shut their stuff down for a certain particular period of time and just do that stuff in like a week or two. Easily. They got the people to do that. They can just move people from other areas of the business to specifically doing it. And that's why it makes no sense for all the small business loans to go to these big ass companies and their offshoots and their subsidiaries. So that's where all the small business money is actually going, by the way.
Yeah. Let me pull this other item up so we can cover it real quick. What's going on, Nicole?
Oh, hey, Mike, go on.
You have anything you want to add to this?
No, I think you were just kind of moving into this pretty nicely, but I'm just looking at the dollars and cents of what this whole banking industry really is all about, and quite frankly, it's not about seeing that you get a lot of money to be more successful. Money is power. I have a couple of fraternity brothers. They started an actuarial firm and they had to raise money some other types of ways, and some of us actually helped to invest, but they had a great plan. They were already making money, went to a major white banking institution. I'm not going to mention who they were, and they refused to really further lend them any more money. And they ended up getting some money from a black banking institution and then some other people who invested, and they had to kind of pull it around that way, and they were already making money. So it was a pretty, they're doing actually pretty well. It's an actuarial company, and these guys are not, doing it. They're involved in the financial industry, and they were not supported by the banking system. So I would have to say, the majority banking system out here is not really in full favor of you, and we've seen a lot of issues with people with great credit ratings getting less money and a lot of other things. So people talk about, well, it's credit ratings that you're supposed to have. That's what's supposed to make you more worthy of being lent to. That's not true, because many of our people who come in with very high credit scores get far less money, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And so you see a lot of complaints about that as well. But at the end of the day, that banking system, since money is a tool, Money's not something to be spent. Money is a tool to be utilized. A lot of banking institutions don't want to have that tool being used in your hands very efficiently, or certainly giving you less access to it, because it's ultimately seen, I don't want you to be that successful. And there's nothing else you can really say except, why wouldn't they lend somewhat profitable businesses money because of the owners who are being black, who are black? I don't know what else. I don't know how else you can call it. And we see this all throughout the banking system here in this country, per se. And maybe we should, bring up some more facts on that as well as we go further into this the discussion. But it's a big issue. Go ahead, Mike.
Let me cover this one here. This is from Metro West Daily News. Framingham's black business owners describe problems they face while trying to grow. Local black business owners met Monday with U.S. Small Business Administration leader Isabel Casellas Guzman to discuss some of the unique challenges and goals they face. Guzman, a member of President Joe Biden's cabinet, visited Framingham alongside U.S. Rep. Kathleen Clark, State Senate Senator Karen Spilka, and Mayor Charlie Steeksty, and others to meet with black business owners who shared their personal stories about the challenges they face in trying to get their businesses off the ground. Brando Randolph, owner of the 1854 Cycling Company, a Framingham-based electric bike manufacturer, pointed out during a roundtable discussion that black business owners get almost no attention from venture capitalists, making them much more reliant on other ways to invest and expand their businesses. He added that the most helpful way to secure capital comes through grant funding, which has been promoted by the state. Okay, this is the brother here. Of all venture capital that is raised, black business owners only get 0.56% of it, Randolph said. So we have to go through loans, self-funding, investing from family, and things like that. One thing we have found and very helpful through the state are matching grants. That helps ease the concerns about private equity. Keep that in mind. Black people getting 0.56% of it. Fiona Kikoyo also faces that problem, having rapidly seen her business, a home decor company that specializes in handmade pillows, grow during the pandemic. Kikoyo is looking to expand beyond her Marlboro home, but lacks the capital to invest in a brick and mortar location. Quote, business was amazing. It was booming because everyone is sitting on their couch, realizing they needed better pillows, Kikoyo said. But I was overwhelmed because I couldn't get help because I was by myself at my home with my kids and my partner, who also works from home. It's not going to work running out of my house. I need a place to go, but the rent is a lot to afford. I love to have a brick and mortar place where people can come and shop. Quote, right now, if someone wants a pillow, they have to come to my house. Kikoyo is aware of the grants that help businesses expand without getting entrepreneurs into large amounts of debt, but has been unable to secure one. She hopes that by speaking with leaders like Guzman, Clark, and Spilka, she can help herself and other business owners who are succeeding but need a boost to expand on their success. Guzman said she frequently hears about the struggles Black business owners have in accessing capital, and that the SBA and federal government are working to ensure they are not facing prejudice when they apply for investments. Quote, the common thread is often around access to capital, Guzman said. Wealth disparity and how that impacts your ability to launch your business. That is a common thing Black business owners are facing nationwide. A disparity when they walk into lending institutions and then they are getting the capital they need for or that they are not, they are credit worthy enough to get. The SBA is really focused on trying to ensure that credit-worthy businesses can access capital more effectively, regardless of race or background or zip code. Guzman said the government learned a lot through the Paycheck Protection Program and other COVID-19 programs, in that there were shortcomings discovered in how businesses access federal programs. Quote, what we learned during the PPP and through the COVID relief programs is that we need broader distribution networks in order to reach all businesses and meet them where they are, she said. Black businesses are often online, as well as dependent on mission-focused lenders and communities. And so we want to make sure we are diversifying our network of lenders and investors so that they can better reflect the communities, because that lack of investment is what creates economic disparity. Clark, whose 5th congressional district includes Framingham, said the pandemic had a disproportionate impact on Black business owners, but that actions from the government have been made to try and jumpstart entrepreneurship in America. Quote, at the start of the pandemic, Black-owned small businesses were closing at twice the rate of their white counterparts, and it was a make or break moment and one that needed decisive action, Clark said. We passed the American Rescue Plan, which was a transformative plan for our economy. It didn't just prevent disaster, it helped kick off a new golden age of entrepreneurship. Clark said that the pressures of the pandemic have eased. The country is seeing a rapid and renewed interest from Black entrepreneurs. In 2021, new Black-owned businesses were opening their doors at the fastest rate in a quarter century. So we have made incredible progress over the last few years, but we still have a long way to go, Clark said. We need that to build an economy that truly works for everyone. We have to root out discrimination. We have to invest in childcare and guaranteed family leave. Laurette Ndukwin, who owns Nzuko restaurant, which hosted Monday's gathering, thanked officials for making it easier for her to hire immigrants, which have allowed her to both ensure her restaurant is properly staffed and also provide opportunities to young people from Haiti. Where's all these people at in the manosphere, man, who was talking about, these immigrants are taking my jobs, so we got to close the borders and all this other stuff. It seems to be working just fine for some people. Quote, we brought in family from Haiti because Joe Biden has given us the opportunity to sponsor Haitians to come work here. I applied for 10. I've gotten 7 so far. That is my support team in the kitchen, Ndukwi said. These kids are educated. These kids are educated kids. Some of them were doctors in Haiti, some in engineering school. They are professional kids that really want to go to school here, but this gives them a chance to learn the language and work in America, and my business can support them. Guzman pointed out that businesses frequently lose out on opportunities to expand because they don't have sufficient investment at the appropriate time, an issue that may be accelerated for Black businesses, which face more challenges in securing that investment. Quote, Morgan Stanley published a study a few years ago that estimated that more than $4 trillion was lost as a result of underinvestment, meaning they couldn't create jobs. They couldn't create the jobs that they should have been able to if they were invested in appropriately. Guzman said that leads to them not creating an economic output, and we need all of our businesses to be working at 100%. So where are all these people that's, during the Trump administration that were sitting around talking about, I came up under Trump. Black folks came up under Trump. Black men did well under Trump. Not exactly, okay? Not exactly. Okay, this brother right here just said it. Of all the venture capital that is raised, Black business owners only get 0.56% of it, okay? So we have to go through loan, self-funding, investing from family and things like that. One thing we have found very helpful through the state are matching grants. Okay. Where are all these people that were talking about how they came up under the previous administration? Republicans are good for business, according to them.
Yeah, large business, not smaller business. Like I don't get how they get to be the small business people when they do nothing but make sure small business people can't even get minority contracts out the window as soon as they get elected. They start closing off USA jobs. Nobody can get hired with the federal government. Like I mean, the level of political literacy is so low. It's just they're looking for a boilerplate bumper sticker that they can hang their hat on, but you ask for details and there are no details.
Yeah, that's a fact. That MOT, you hitting that right in the head. There are no details because their whole it's a talking. These are just talking points to say, well, we're bashing the left or we're going after progressives, but there's nothing else there. So that's all that is there, and a lot of people right now are getting paid to say this kind of stuff. So that's essentially what you're looking at. I know there's one guy, he's supposed to be over there in Africa. And I'm not talking about O'Shea. I'm not talking about him. We're talking about someone else who's out there, says he goes back and forth to Africa and do whatever, but he's out there talking about, the talk going in on the left, but yet doesn't talk about anything that's going in that's happening with what the right is or is not doing. But yet, it's just a constant barrage from just one side, doesn't talk about the other. So you see kind of what that's going on. These are just talking points at this stage. As Mike here is elucidating certain types of facts, it flies in the face of a lot of this. And how does one really explain some of this? I would challenge any one of them to please come up here and please explain it and give a good definition. We're definitely open to all that. So I would like to hear that as well. I don't suspect we'll see one, of course, but if anyone would like to kind of explain that, I would, or countervail it, I would like to hear it. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
We got Alonzo on the panel. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, boss? How are you? Definitely a lot of these topics hit home, right? As a self-employed trying to be small business myself, it is very difficult to even get access to a lot of that money. And then, they even talk about self-funding or support from the community, which unfortunately, because we don't have, as a whole, access to a lot of capital, it becomes difficult for us to even support each other's businesses because we don't have the capital. So even if we want to be like, hey, I want to support your business, I can't even fucking afford to support most of our another brother, right? Or to help another brother grow, even though I want to. You understand? So it does become difficult. But I'll pause there.
Yeah, definitely. But if you leave it to the manosphere, a lot of super chats and cash apps going around. But how?
Well, just to interject, so there are a lot of super chats and cash apps.
About women. Yeah.
However, I have actually sat with at least 36 men from the manosphere, right? Now, not all of them are financially in a position, like I said, where they're able to support. However, some of them are, and I've been getting some of that support. But what happens is, in the Black manosphere, and even Rael has mentioned this, channels like this, the Black Brain Trust, need to be drastically supported more, and there needs to be much more drive of that than Keisha with the big brick, or why they're acting a certain way. When you carry yourself a certain way and handle business in a certain manner, then you'll have, often they'll have no choice but to start falling in line, and they will fall in line. It's just like in the military, right? Someone may be a wild person, but the military has a structure that's set up that you have no choice. You either fall in line or you're out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's what needs to be done in the manosphere.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think that I saw the other day a certain chat room person throw up a $200 super chat to a content creator with a PhD talking about SBE, making songs about it. Okay. But when it comes to topics like this, those same folks are a no call, no show. And so how do you have a space that's predominantly Black and male, and people want to sit up here and say, oh man, I'm Black male first and I'm Black male second, and this and everything else. But as soon as you start talking about the monies, guys start acting funny, okay? You can't get these guys to sit down for 5 minutes and listen to a stream like this that's telling you, yeah, under the last administration, folks didn't come up at all, okay? If you think that Black people, especially Black men, were coming up under the last administration, prove it, because the numbers don't reflect it. If Black people only getting 0.56% of the billions of dollars that's out there on the market for venture capital investment for small businesses, you got to explain that outcome. You got to explain the numbers. And so what's happening here is folks are pretending that this is not an issue and that 80% of their subscribers make $80,000 or more. There's a whole lot of fugazi going on. We have to call this out in the same way. We have to highlight that small Black businesses are not doing well because they don't have access to capital. They don't have access to capital because their credit score is not what some bank thinks is viable for lending. And then you take into consideration the fact that we have no control over the financial system as it stands. And so how are Black people, how are you going to bring women to a table to have a discussion about what? You're only getting 0.56% of venture capital investment out of $500 billion in the market. Gotta explain that. Go ahead, Hamilton.
Yeah, like a lot of people went out there because they couldn't get their PPP loan and the EIDL loan, especially if they bank with JP Morgan, Chase, Citigroup, or Bank of America. They only gave that stuff to the higher tier people. They completely ignored the lower tier people. Like, in order for me to get my EIDL loan and both of the PPP rounds, I had to go to a smaller credit union. Went to a smaller credit union, same application, had my money in 7 days. Waited like 6 months with one organization. They was like, oh, it's still pending. It's still pending. It's like, all the stuff is forgiven and all this kind of stuff. And they started screwing people on forgiving certain type of loans, especially if you're a minority and all this kind of other stuff. And it's like, this is called equal banking. Larger institution couldn't get anything done. Went to a smaller institution, had stuff within 7 days. Same process, same actual accountant who filed it, and everything else. This is a normal process, following up with process, and this stuff happens. And then when you got people who don't want to participate in the process and want to outsource everything to everyone else, hear no policy, see no policy, feel no policy, and then they always want to complain about stuff not actually working right. Mm-hmm. So that's what you got.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I peruse the manosphere every once in a while, maybe once a day or so, and kind of look around just to see what, whether or not there's some weeds in the garden. And we're overrun with poison ivy right now in terms of content. I don't see anybody really talking about this. I don't see anybody even coming up with a short-term plan of 1 to 5 years. I mean, there was a manosphere conference, but what came out of that? I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. We're in crisis mode right now. Black businesses only getting,
We're splitting it into other conferences. Now, Theo Soros, he took a road to one way or another, and these dudes couldn't self-fund.
Yep.
They wanted to be part of somebody else's big tent idea, and then all of a sudden it just fell apart over what? Money. I mean, anybody can take a trip down to somebody else's self-funded operation. When it comes to you actually putting the stuff together on your own, never would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to cover, these two pieces here. I think that, they're really important topic. Well, it's the same topic, but, really important dialogue to have in terms of access to capital. Anybody who thinks that Black people are doing super awesome under the previous administration is surely mistaken. I think that this new administration is doing the best that it can with what it has to work with. We just read the article about what the administration is actually doing in terms of, putting out grants. Okay. Most Black businesses are funded by grants. And so those grants are coming from this administration, not the previous one. We know that the previous one was giving out trillions of dollars, to failed airlines, pharmaceutical companies, military industrial complex. Yeah, basketball stadiums. So this is kind of what we're dealing with here. Zero has a question. What are the Black-owned businesses? Black-owned business equals Hustle Incorporated, mostly dealing in entertainment-centric business ventures. How do you calculate return on investment on hustles? 99% depend on luck. I think that has been a trope for a long time when it came to Black businesses. I know some of the business summits I've been to, the bank said that they're not funding any barbershops or any hair salons. So I think that that has been a long trope in the community, that people are, kind of just hustling. But I think hustling has a different meaning when you're actually in the business rather than when you're not. I know a lot of small businesses here, the city and the state had paid their rents so that they would not go completely under. I think the article is kind of, pointing this out. And there's some other businesses like the cannabis industry, have helped a lot, helped some cannabis spots open up, and which are very lucrative businesses because they work in cash only. So, they have to, run their operation really, really tight and lean, but they're cash positive. That being said, I think the hustle culture is unfairly put onto Black people rather than the actual businesses that are tangible, that are actually doing, like this woman here who had a polo business, who skyrocketed during the pandemic because everybody was at home. She's a small business owner. In fact, she's a micro business owner. And so I do think that, Black people get unfairly put into that category. If you think about some of these truck owners, owner operators and stuff like that, you want them to drive more fuel efficient trucks, but you got to give them access to capital so that they can afford to buy those trucks.
Cheers.
I mean, what do you want them to do? I mean, yeah, Frito-Lay, yeah, they can go out and go buy, 100 Tesla battery electric trucks, but Black folks are not Frito-Lay, nor are they Pepsi and Coca-Cola, man. They don't have that kind of cash laying around. They're not FedEx or,
UPS.
UPS. Yeah. Oh, say that again, Alonzo.
Can I interject? So,
Yes, sir.
Again, with the independent owner operator truckers that we have, the intelligent thing to do would be to come together as a coalition, right? Like I mentioned before, and like I've mentioned many times ago, back in 2017, 31,000 Sikh men came together simultaneously into the trucking industry. If you ask Complex, he'll tell you all the time, they dominate the industry in his area. So
They do.
what can happen is the reason that they are able to do so is because even if some of them are beefing, like is going to happen naturally, we as a collective can say, listen, Me doing this on my own is cool. I'm getting some money and I want to go fast, but I want to go far. And the way to go far is for us to go collectively, because Singh Bros LLC is beating Alonzo Hall Trucking LLC, because Singh Bros LLC is putting 3 men in one truck, because you can sleep in the back, right? So 2 of them are sleeping in the back while one motherfucker is driving. Excuse my language. The other 2 wake up and they drive in shifts. This cuts down the amount of time that it takes for you to deliver a load. Does that not increase the amount of pay that you receive, right, when you're bidding on a job? So then the next thing is, now that they've cut down the time that it takes to deliver that order, the people who order deliveries are going to give them right of first refusal on larger and specialized orders. So the idea is, listen, who's the biggest Black trucker right now? Yo, I'm littler than you, absorb me, and then we use our power together. You know who else does something like that? Morgan Stanley, Smith, Barney, Dean Witter, and Just Bought Your Mama's House. So that's a great way, and we can easily communicate with each other, not even on the RVs, but right here on YouTube. Because I know about 15 men who are in the trucking industry who communicate with each other on a daily basis in the manosphere. But there are more conversations of, excuse my language, useless bullshit. Right? And, you know, that I'll stop there.
Yeah, the thing is that you got to be able to move with the people who you can move with. Like most of the stuff that I get is from Russians and Sikhs and Indians and Arabs in the trucking industry. I don't have to depend on Black people for shit in trucking. Those people get you plugged in. It's not a big deal for them to give you a $3 or $4 a mile load. Like they've completely taken over the dispatching companies, the actual Indians have. And they're not even in the United States. They're still over in India, running trucks over here in the United States because people, quote unquote, don't want to learn the industry. So it's like, you got to be able to get in with the people who's already there. Now, they're not doing the actual government contracting side because they don't know how that works yet. But once they do, man, they're going to start locking a whole lot of people out. And people are going to wish that they were actually down with actually productive and successful people already. Because you're not going to get me to give a damn about these people who want to spend all their time on these women and all this kind of other stuff. If you're 40, 50 something years old with your hands out for an opportunity coming 2 or 3 years from now, I know what you were doing last summer and the summer before that and the summer before that. So I think productive people need to separate and actually deal with other people who are actually productive regardless of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to kill this myth of productive fuckery, because a lot of people think that, okay, I'm just going to hang around the relationship industry argument and all of the actual legitimate ways of getting into IT are just going to come from there. Not come to the actual people who are actually IT focused and specialized within the actual space. I'm just going to stay in non-productive zones and try to get productivity out of it. It's crazy.
Well, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead, Nicole. Go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say it segregates itself. Most people are not. People who I know who are productive are not hanging around the non-productive areas. They're not. People don't have time for it. You're working hard. You're building your business. You're working. You got contracts. You're working on stuff. You're working with other people who know what's going on in that regard. Your friends, in so many respects, are your resources, and you're moving forward in that regard. You're not wasting a lot of time with those who sit around. All those who are sitting around talking that bull dinky, they're not doing much. The brothers who are very focused on being productive are not hanging around those spaces. That's just how it is.
You know, when I first came into the manosphere, when I first started engaging 2.0, let me say that, There was a lot of discussion from a lot of Black men talking, oh man, you know, I spent this much time in the military and I was, you know, doing tours and doing this, and this. So I said, you know, on one of these streams that they were having on these 8-hour streams, why don't these brothers come together, you know, and get involved in the military industrial complex? Why don't we have our own Halliburton? Oh man, you can't be doing that, man. You know, you stepping on the wrong toes and this, and this. All this excuse making, but all this bravado talk, you know, about how much time they served in the military and how many push-ups they can do, and you know, M4 carbines and all this other stuff. As soon as I started asking about, you know, questions about weapons manufacturing and, you know, MRAPs and things like that, you know, the number one supplier of MRAPs to law enforcement right now is Lenco, Lenco, out in Springfield, Massachusetts. Okay, there are 17,000 police departments. Lenco supplies up to 80% of MRAPs in this country. One manufacturer. When I brought this up, a lot of cats they didn't want to hear it. We want to talk about the bitches. Okay, they wanted to talk about women, and so that's where we are right now. Same guys who want to bring women to the table don't want to acknowledge that they don't really have a long-term strategy for moving forward.
I mean, you know, they don't have a long-term strategy for anything, to be quite honest. I mean, the only thing they have a long-term strategy for is how long we siphon off them enough money to get with issues that they're not even trying to solve, any proof that they even solve stuff. So I'll just say, you know what? There's tons of people out there who's looking for minority owners, tons of people who's looking for disabled veterans like myself, tons of people who are looking for people with 8A certifications to pipe contracts through. All you think you have to do is be in business 1 year, give them 1 year personal tax returns, go through the 8A process. It really isn't hard if you don't have any hardcore political connections. Go through it. You can sign on with a company. They could be running all this stuff through you. You could be making millions of dollars sitting around not doing anything, but just having an 8A certification and teaming up with somebody who's way bigger. Happens all the time. These aren't productive people for anything. What they're waiting on, they're trying to weigh down the entire force of progress with their sheer numbers of stagnation. So I'm just keep telling you, man, nobody's coming for these people. Nobody's coming to save these people. So don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Let them do what they do, and you just move forward and without it. And you let them keep talking about us coming together, while you keep separating further and further apart from our production. So I don't think these people even worthy of being reached or reached out to or any of that stuff. Because the only thing they're going to do is try to hustle and flow your information, try to stunt on your information to other people who just don't know any better. It's like anything else. So it's a waste of time even waiting for these people to get up to speed. They're not going to get up to speed. They're not going to learn their history. They're not going to care about anything unless you place it into their hands to destroy. So it's really not that hard to move without these people. You're always going to have to build a life without these people anyway. You might as well start today. You'd be better off once you start separating.
Indeed, indeed.
So can I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
At a certain age, speaking to men of a certain age, we're speaking of men not having an action plan and often talking about patience. Can we get some guidance, right? Because you gentlemen are of a certain age as well. And so you guys have already walked the corner I've walked or am walking to. And I've already walked the corner someone in his 20s is walking to. So in the fact of criticism, can we also offer constructive criticism or say, hey, because I understand the fact that it's difficult to, when you reach a certain age, you realize, damn, what would I say to my younger self? And the reality is nothing because he wouldn't listen. But there are people who are open to listening. And life is ever evolving. So possibly some of those men are looking for that guidance, those whom are focused. And you also have to realize, as Black men, it's like the Marines, right? So there's a few of us who are at certain levels, and it's difficult to walk alone. However, you can and will, right? But again, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, you bring a squadron or a platoon, right? And then you tear everything up. So can we get some of those, even if it's just, hey, look, this is what I did or didn't do, maybe you should or shouldn't do, right? And what, I can't tell you because I haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Well, I could tell you that. Let me get some pushback on that. I mean, we can put up neon lights and stripper poles. That's not bringing people to the productivity piece, man. Like what they're doing is they're doing on purpose. The people that they're hanging out with, they're hanging out there on purpose. They want a productive fuckery solution. Like they want the solutions for all their from the camp of fuckery, not from the camp of productivity. These people have chosen the side that they're on. I know our numbers are very small. They're not concerned about us. They're concerned about, that's why they're over there with them. So we just got to be able to work within our numbers, within our ranks, because the moment we keep lowering our conversation, we become those people at that point. And then like the productivity piece get overran by these people who want to talk about Keisha. Because the moment you start talking about progress, people still try to find a way to shoehorn in this woman-based conversation to, okay, 1% of the time, then it becomes 3% of the time, then next thing you know, it's 25% of the time, next thing you know, it's half the time, and now it's 75, now it's 100% of the time. But if you just left all that stuff out of there, and you make those people prove that they can stay away from those type of things, in order to be able to move forward, it's better. Because the moment you start lowering your guard, you will be overrun by these people. And they always want to sabotage and destroy everything that's even decent and good. So yeah, that's what that is. So
Let's go to complex design.
Hey, yo, can y'all hear me okay?
I can hear you, bro.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Hey, man, good evening, man.
What's up, Complex?
Hey, what's good with you, Zo? What's good, everyone? Hey, so I wanted to kind of follow up a little bit on what you were just talking about here. Like, what is it that we're supposed to do? Or I'm trying to remember how you kind of framed the question. I just dropped my daughter off the practice, but I was listening. You said, like, what is it that we're supposed to do? Or what was that question?
Say again?
No, what was the question that you asked? You said, like, with the younger cats and stuff. Like, what was it that you had asked?
So, like, for the younger cats, right? As a man of a certain age, as being a man of a certain age, there are men of certain ages who we seen things that they're going to see, right? And so one of the things that can be done is the offerance of guidance. Hey, young brother. Now, the reality is, once you get a certain age, this is often why we don't talk to the younger generation. Because if an older man talked to me when I was a certain age, I'd be like, nigga, fuck out of here. But there are those who are receptive. So for those who are receptive, since we can put this out in the airwaves, hey, let me offer some advice, young one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that you got to be that example in true and living, right? Like, seeing is believing, ain't it? Right. See, so I mean, you got people who are drawn to other people because they talk, and the talk alone assuages them. Okay, it assuages them of all the insecurities that they have. So when you have a person who does nothing but just talk, they're an orator, and it says, yes, you know what, you're right. I do have these deficiencies for these very reasons. And see, that runs juxtaposed to people who have actual mentors or people that they can actually go to who are an actual example of what it is that they're striving to become. Now, see, when you deal directly with those types of people, they're going to tell you, hey, son, don't do that. Don't do that. Well, see, here's the thing, right? Your head is over in the clouds when it should be over here. How the hell you think I got all this shit? You think I was fucking around doing the stuff you're doing? No. You see all this right here? How you think this got here? See, that's a different conversation.
Understood.
See? Okay, see, so really what it boils down to is priority. What's priority? What's priority for cats, right? What is priority? That's the question. Is it, as you guys were just talking, is it Keisha? It never was for me. Zoe, all them times we've been on the phone, was Keisha ever a conversation for you and I?
No.
No, it wasn't, was it? Okay. Did we call up Lloyd's of London to talk about Keisha? Is that what we called them?
No.
No, it wasn't. Okay. So that's all I wanted to kind of, you know, just say to that one.
Understood.
All right. I think that's probably a good place to end the conversation. Thank you all for joining. Please hit the like button on the way out. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust.